Well, Chesterfield's move in 2010 to the B2 Net Stadium, well, it's all been done before, because after the cricket club of the town had started up the football club in the late 1860s, when they used to change in the county hotel down the road in Saltergate, the old recreation ground used to be here on Tennyson Avenue. It's difficult to ascertain exactly where the positions were, but we reckon this might be just about the corner of the ground. And after a few years of existence, when the cricket club needed to move on, they moved from here in Tennyson Avenue to there, just down the road, the new recreation ground a little bit further down Saltergate.
And this is where the 139 years of history has been made. We'll be looking at the high points and heroes of the club's long association with Saltergate. The War Cup, the promotion seasons, the FA Cup run, the Great Escape, and the dramatic last match against Bournemouth. We'll see how the place has developed. We'll see great goals. We'll see dramatic match action from the place we've called home for so long. But first of all, let's go back to 1871, the last time Chesterfield Football Club decided to uproot and move.
Well, rather like it's a momentous decision for Chesterfield to move to the B2 Net Stadium in 2010, it must have been a momentous decision to move way back in 1871 to come here to Saltergate. But I believe it was probably more of a cricket decision than a football decision.
Well, indeed, the cricket club were in charge of the football club just at the time, and when the cricket club had to leave the old recreation ground that way and walk across two fields to come here to play their cricket, of course the football club came with them.
And of course, before any football had been played here, that first match against Rotherham, there was cricket on the recreation ground.
Indeed, a full season of cricket and athletic sports as well. They reckon some 8,000 people came out to watch these athletic sports, where there was pole vaulting and high jumping and all that kind of thing. Cricket club put them on to try and make some money to pay back what they'd had to shell out to build the recreation ground, or to at least to have it laid out. But they lost money on it, and I suppose it's established a tradition that's continued to this day, perhaps.
But again, in that summer, there were some personalities did play when the Chesterfield Cricket Club played as well.
Yes, all the footballers played cricket, of course. People like Widdowson, the chap who invented the shin guards, came here and competed in athletic sports and cricket matches. And over the years, some pretty famous England cricketers have played here. People like W.G. Grace even. And Chesterfield had an England cricketer on its earliest books. A number of many famous people. England footballers have played here in the early years as well.
Of course, football was still very much in its infancy at that time, so when the first match was eventually played here, I would imagine whoever it was that had the job of honorary fixtures secretary had quite a task to find regular matches.
Well, fortunately, the people in Sheffield, just up the road, were playing a fairly well-developed version of their game at the time, and so we started off as a Sheffield rules team, 14 aside, handling the ball. Basically, I suppose it would have looked like rugby union does now, perhaps. But handling the ball went out fairly shortly. Offsides came in. We started using the crossbar instead of a tape, and it gradually changed into the sort of form that we know today.
And very much Chesterfield playing a part in that early development of the game into that form.
Well, indeed, yes, because of our sort of strange geographical position, being in Derbyshire but almost socially and politically belonging more to Sheffield. It was a kind of halfway house, and the Sheffield players would come down here and practice the association rules against our team because we had a bit more experience of playing them, you know.
And the association rules, no doubt, were dominating the teams around the Nottingham area at that time.
Yes, but every area had its own little version of the rules. Sometimes games here would be the first half played association rules and the second half played Sheffield rules, which must have been fantastically confusing.
So in terms of those very earliest years here at Saltergate, what were the key moments, the key games, the key players that elevated Chesterfield into that league status?
Gosh, one of the first key players who comes up was a chap called George Wormersley, who nobody would have ever heard of. He was a post office clerk in the 1870s, but between about 1871 and 1878 he scored almost every goal that Chesterfield scored. When the fashion in those days was to give the ball to the player who could dribble it best, and he went off on a big long dribble up the field and all his mates followed him and knocked everybody else out of the way, and when he got up to the goal he'd have a shot and in it goes, you know.
So an early Jack Lester.
If you like, yes, very much so, yes. We come up, of course, into the 1890s. We have people like Billy Kerwin, who was a noted local player, despite the fact that he was born without any arms. Didn't play in goal, obviously. Of course, we come to the great Herbert Munday, who arrived here in 1892 from Eckington and stayed here until, 1912, something like that. Enormously long career, stayed loyal to the club because the club was fair to him, and that was as simply as he saw it, you know.
One thing you'll have never experienced here at Saltergate is Chesterfield winning promotion. 69-70, promotion clinch when Chesterfield were playing away at Exeter. 84-85, clinch without playing a game because Hereford failed to beat Chester City. And of course there was the 94-95 win at Wembley, great place to be. But those of us, as I say, under 80, have got very few memories of great moments at Saltergate, cup games apart. But where I'm standing now is the best place in the ground to have been on the last day of the 2003-2004 season, the Luton game. Roy McFarlane's side had started off very badly that season, and by Christmas had been written off as being relegated. But I remember the game away at London Road, Peterborough United, Jamie McMaster coming in, and a win that all of a sudden gave us a little bit of hope, and we had that little bit of a run and looked as though we might climb out of trouble. Just had a few falters towards the end, and it came to that last day of the season, Chesterfield-Luton. All eyes on the pitch here, all eyes or ears on the radio to see what was happening at Tranmere Rovers against Grimsby. Ironically, Grimsby managed by Nicky Law, the former Chesterfield favourite and manager at that time. Anyway, Grimsby started off well and they were winning, and it all looked gloomy for the Spirites. But then Tranmere came back, went into the lead against Grimsby, and so it was down to the Spirites to see if they could get that goal. We all remember the 1985 snooker world final when Dennis Taylor came back to beat Steve Davis on the last black ball of the game. Well, it was getting to the last black ball of the game here. 88 minutes on the clock. The game had started a minute later because there'd been a minute's silence for the Duke of Devonshire, the president of the club. And so 88 minutes on the clock. Defender in Everett had moved up a little bit. Long ball from the back came up. Everett flicked on, picked up by Glyn Hurst. Couple of touches, took it into the inside of the box, just down there, and then flicked the ball past the goalkeeper and set an eruption the likes of which I've never seen in a league game here at Saltergate. Hurst realised he'd scored, realised the magnitude of it, ran towards the fans down in the corner there of the Cop and Compton Street, celebrated with everybody. There was a mini pitch invasion, just a couple of minutes to go, and the referee managed to clear the pitch, and we played out the last few moments. And I remember David Reeves dancing up and down on the touchline. I'd been doing a commentary on the match that day, and I was honoured to be able to walk around with a radio mic and do live interviews with all of the players as they took their lap of honour. One of the greatest moments of my Chesterfield supporting time here. Absolutely fantastic. As I say, no promotion since the war here at Saltergate, but that one moment at the end of the season in 2004 just captured the spirit of the place. Who would have thought that all it was avoiding relegation? But season ticket sales that summer just went through the roof, and the bug was well and truly picked up by hundreds and hundreds of people who perhaps hadn't been regulars that season, and Glyn Hurst did it.
We start this afternoon at Saltergate in the final match of the 2003-2004 season with the minute silence for the Duke of Devonshire from Chatsworth House, who passed away this week. The president of the Chesterfield Football Club passed away this week at the age of 84. The Chesterfield and the Luton Town sides in action today in the Nationwide League Division 2. We'll give you now as the kick-off is about to take place. First of all, the Chesterfield in goal is number 1, Carl Muggleton. Number 3, Alan O'Hare. Number 4 is Kevin Dawson. Number 5, Steve Blatherwick. Number 8, Mark Ellett, as kick-off gets underway. It's going to be O'Hare this time. Oh, it's driven, and it was a good save Good effort from Alan O'Hare. Good save by Dean Brill on the Luton goal. Brandon tried to lay it off to Reeves, but the Luton defence between them managing to cut that ball out. The flag's gone up on the far side, and the free kick again is to Luton Town. It could be the last action of the first half, as Chris Coyne, well, he thought about taking it. He's going to leave it instead to Nielsen. Square ball to Davis and back to his goalkeeper, and indeed referee Eddie Evans blows the half-time whistle at Saltergate. No goals at half-time here, but it still could be significant as far as other results are concerned if Chesterfield can snatch a lead in the second half. Welcome back to Saltergate, everybody, for the second half of this Nationwide League Division 2 game between Chesterfield and Luton Town. No goals at half-time, Chesterfield 0, Luton Town 0, but a must-win game for Chesterfield. They have to win it with any chance to have any chance at all of staying in Division 2 this season in its final league game of the season. Chesterfield to kick off this second half, and playing towards the cop end, which is always provides a little bit more encouragement. Let's hope Chesterfield can get something out of this today and hope results go right at half-time as we kick the second half off. Rushton and Diamonds a goal down at home against Port Vale. Brentford 0, Bournemouth 0, and Tranmere 0, Grimsby Town 1. One good result, one bad result, and one indifferent result among those three. Blatherwick's header. Ball wide by Nielsen to Foley. Cross from Alan Nielsen. Shawumbi's in there. Driven by Forbes. Took a deflection. And again, a let-off for Chesterfield. Luton looking dangerous in the last 5 minutes or so. They gain another corner. To be taken by Robinson. The ball in. Goes through everybody and out of play for the goal kick. Again, more action at Prenton Park. Tranmere Rose now leading Grimsby by 2-1. That must be the cheer from the crowd, encouraged by results starting to go their way. Grimsby are losing, Rushton are losing, and if those two lose and Chesterfield win, Chesterfield will stay up. But the important thing is Chesterfield need a goal here. Well, you can certainly hear what they're singing, but again, if Chesterfield can't get the points here, it won't matter what anybody else does. O'Leary for Luton. Showing me. Little ball looking for Nichols' run, but put out by Everett. Nichols retrieves it though. The ball in here for O'Leary, chance for Luton, and O'Leary's touch wasn't good. The ball goes out of play for the goal kick. Meanwhile, at the other end of the field, we've got a Luton man down on the edge of the centre circle. I think it's Chris Coyne that's, well, he's just up back to his feet now, in fact, as Carl Muggleson prepares to take the goal kick. So, Grimsby Town are losing at Tranmere. Rushton and Diamonds are losing at home against Port Vale. Brentford are winning at home against Bournemouth. And Glynhurst, a chance here for Chesterfield! Glynhurst, the ball down the field. Glynhurst scores with the spotlights, and Chesterfield could yet survive. What a goal from Glynhurst! A big kick downfield. Spotlight supporters absolutely delighted. Glynhurst, with 3 minutes remaining, has put the Spotlights in front. They need to get off the pitch quickly. Supporters need to get off the pitch quickly and let the game continue, but Chesterfield have the lead. Glynhurst the scorer of the goal. High drama at Saltergate in these dying minutes then. Chesterfield have the lead. If results stay the same, Chesterfield will stay up. And Glynhurst getting his share back on there. Scorer of 12 goals this season, that's number 13 for him. Will it be lucky 13? And we've now had 4 minutes of stoppage time. Surely there can't be much more to this. Luton have the throw. The ball cleared to Shawummi. Everett got a foot in there. The ball goes across now to Emerson Boyce for Luton Town. And the final whistle goes in Saltergate. Chesterfield have beaten Luton Town this afternoon, and in a mass pitch invasion of supporters, Chesterfield look like they've stayed up. The way the results have gone, Grimsby Town have been beaten at Tranmere Rovers. These are not results but latest scores. Rushden and Diamonds are 2-0 down at home against Port Vale, and as supporters invade the pitch here at Saltergate, Chesterfield are 1-0 winners over Luton Town. That will be enough to keep them in the second division next season. It was tight all the way. It took right until the last 3 minutes when Glyndhurst put the ball into the back of the net on 87 minutes, and players are absolutely mobbed there as they head for the tunnel. Certainly not scenes of violence, but scenes of celebration as Chesterfield supporters encroach onto the field of play. But delight, it's almost as though they've got promotion. They've not got anywhere near that, but they've just managed to survive, stay in Division 2. It was a monumental task after defeat at Oldham last Saturday, but they managed to do it this afternoon. Players heading for the tunnel, lost among the crowd there, really. Delight for Chesterfield supporters, Luton supporters applauding their team as they go off. The Luton players making themselves scarce as quickly as possible. But it's all about Chesterfield this afternoon. It's all about staying in Division 2 and what to look forward to next season. Against the odds really today, the Spartans have come good. In the final 3 minutes it was still 0-0 when Glyndhurst popped up to hit the winner for Chesterfield. And I'm sure there's some devastated Grimsby and Rushden supporters today. Let's have a thought for them. But for Chesterfield, it looks like they've stayed in the second division. As supporters leave the field at Saltergate this afternoon, the final score here at Saltergate looks like Division 2 survival. Chesterfield 1, Luton Town 0.
Well, when Chesterfield moved here in the 1930s, this concourse area here, would you believe it? It was a training area. There's extra bits of building being put on in the last few years. There used to be a little bit less breeze block wall here, and players had actually run up and down. They used to practice heading, with balls hanging down from the ceiling. They'd practice fitness work, weight work, and everything along those lines. Much, much different to what it is now. Just look round. There's all sorts of stuff in the concourse. Just imagine what a health and safety nightmare that might be on a local derby match. And no local derby match comes bigger than Mansfield, and no local derby match against Mansfield comes bigger than that in the semi-final second leg of the playoff back to 1995. Law, Lormer, Howard, all even Stevens, but in that last 30 minutes of extra time, Chesterfield just took off in a fantastic game under lights, one of the most memorable experiences in the league the Old Ground's ever seen.
Peters generally comes towards the back post. He's in there, so is Howard, the tall centre-half. Wilkinson in there too. It'll be swung in by the left boot, and it's a goal! A great goal! What a start! I think it's Paul Holland who gets in, and Mansfield have the early goal that is demanded of them by Andy King. What a bonus! Morris, lovely little flick. Here's Lormer. Sharp! So sharp! Wonderful goal, Tony Lormer. That's why Tony Lormer has become a hero and a very quick favourite with the Chesterfield fans. The only sign for them in the new year, he's got 11 goals for them in this time, and that was absolutely razor sharp. Great time for Lormer to score. We're all level again in the tie, 2-2 on aggregate. And just a reminder, if it stays like this, we'll have extra time and we could have a penalty shootout. Mansfield, Wilkinson coming straight back, Holland in the area, might still get a shot in. No, Beasley comes to gather it with Wilkinson and Holland both there. And the match is perfectly poised now. Wilkinson and Hadley managed to confuse the Chesterfield central defence again. Law stumbles, he might have let him in, he has! A desperate mistake by Nicky Law. Steve Wilkinson says thanks very much for that, and Mansfield are back in front. It always looked a dangerous ball, but Nicky Law, who makes probably only a mistake a season, has made one here without doubt. And what a night on which to make it. Wilkinson, the predator, is in there with him, the ball bobbling nastily, and Wilkinson tucks it away past Andy Beasley. Mansfield back in front, Law furious with himself. Wilkinson's 26th goal of the season. And Hazel signed he was injured, so it's some occasion this for him. Let's see if he can set up a second Chesterfield goal. Carr goes for it! It is a Chesterfield goal! It's 2-2, it's Jonathan Howard, and the game is set up and turned on his head again. Jonathan Howard's first ever goal at Saltergate. Hazel, who stuck out by that touchline. Lorna stepped over it. Howard was hoping that Curtis would come in behind him. Now Simon Island for Mansfield. Not been the same force in the second half, that is for sure. And a bad challenge here. And Lampkin is in real trouble because he was booked in the first half. Kevin Lampkin gets a second yellow and a red, and off he goes, and Mansfield will play out the rest of this game with 10 men. He had to go. Booked in the first half, Andy King can't believe it, a rueful look on his face as Lampkin walks past him, almost unnoticed, certainly no words spoken between the two of them. Hazel finds himself with the ball, and Morris battles away, and he's won his battle as well. Might have taken it too far though. Still, Hazel's here to pick it up and try and knock it across. That he does. Here they come! And a fabulous save by Darren Ward. Otherwise, Chesterfield were in front for the first time of the night. Ward certainly appreciated the service from Hazel. And this is one terrific save. It was Lorna's header. It's as good a cross as the one he delivered for Lorna's header. He'll be in trouble with the Mansfield defence. Appeals for handball. Oh! And Ward makes another hit. It's a penalty. The penalty's been given. It doesn't matter that Ward made the save. Handball has been given. And Chesterfield will have the chance to go in front for the first time on the night. Let's have a look here. The referee has turned one handball down tonight, but not this one. Opportunity falls to the captain, Nicky Law, the man whose mistake presented Wilkinson with a goal earlier on the night. This would be the perfect way to atone for Nicky Law. His second goal only all season. He scored against Gillingham in January. He won't care about that one now. This is the one that matters. And Nicky Law takes Chesterfield ahead for the first time on the night, as cool as a cucumber. I thought he might have got a free kick on that. Solid work from Carr, because it looked as though Wilkinson, the legs of him at one stage. Oh, and a real skirmish here with Andy Morris and Mark Peters. Was booked in the first half. He's off as well. Mansfield down to 9 men, and they've really lost their cool now, and they may have lost their chance of going to Wembley as well. Mark Peters, the second Mansfield player to have been shown 2 yellow cards and consequently a red. Ending full appearance, in fact, and 11 is substituted. Here he goes again, and he's kept on going. Howard, the 2 in the middle. It's taken away by Barraclough. Long-range shot. Yet another fabulous save from Ward. Well, he does not deserve to be beaten on the night. Terrific strike again from Rodgers here. He's flipped in a couple of cracking efforts tonight as Lee Rogers. Ward has got agility on his side. He's a superb goalkeeper, but he's been beaten again by Nicky Law. And can you believe it? Nicky Law, the defender, the captain, the goal scorer. 2 for Nicky Law on the night. That's 2. That's double his aggregate for the season. Incredible. Nicky Law, a thumping header, and what it looked like being a night of misery for him not long ago was turning into the greatest night of his footballing life. And here's Morris. Try and tee someone else up. And it's surely a goal. Has to be. And Chesterfield are on their way to Wembley. Jonathan Howard, 2 for him, 5 for Chesterfield, and they can start booking their tickets and their trips. It's the simplest goal of the night, but when you've only got 9 men, how do you defend against this sort of thing? And it's all turned out so well for Chesterfield. You feel for Ward in goal, who's been a valiant trial. 2 goals for Jonathan Howard, so just as he's doubled his tally for the season and Nicky Law's trebled his, it's turned out to be a wonderful night for Chesterfield and their fans. And the goalkeeper is coming up for this one. Darren Ward appears on the edge of the penalty area. Well, this would round it off, wouldn't it, if he were to score? He's in there looking for it, and he's up there, and he causes a bit of mayhem, but he's not back there in his net. If Lormer humps this ball forward, and now Robinson chases it, there's no goalkeeper back there. But it doesn't matter, the whistle has gone, and Chesterfield will play at Wembley on May the 27th. Their strength and their resilience has carried them through, having been behind early in the match at 1-0 and 2-1. They've come through it with 2 goals from their hero, Nicky Law, and 2 for Jonathan Howard as well.
Yeah, I'm just delighted to win the game. I mean, I was marking Holland for the free kick he scored. I messed up for the second one, and, you know, maybe a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, you know, it's such a bad feeling, you just can't explain. And then to come out and get to 2, all the lads have done brilliant. Then I get the penalty. And the header, I mean, well, I can't say no more.
What was going through your mind for the penalty?
I don't know, I looked at each corner 3 or 4 times, and I knew where I was going to put it if we got one. And I just stayed with the same corner and put it in there, and God, I was pleased when it went in.
Well, the 1946-47 season had massive crowds at all the games around the country, and Saltergate here was no exception. The biggest average crowd that there'd ever been. Regularly crowds approaching 30,000 here on Saltergate, the record crowd in the region of 30,000 against Tottenham Hotspur, of course. And there was space absolutely everywhere, and health and safety issues didn't come into it. No roof on the Kop as well, which meant there was a lot more room. And there were 1,200 spaces down here where I'm standing in the old enclosure that, of course, did its bit until the Bradford fire in 1985, when these fire escapes were built every sort of 10 paces or so. And I remember standing many a game in here when I first started coming on a regular basis. You were up in the action, the ball had come over, and you'd field it on many an occasion during the game.
The team of 1946-47 was the best Chesterfield have ever had. Stan Milburn in defence, great players like Ray Middleton, who won 4 England B caps whilst a greengrocer in New Whittington, George Milburn, and Ken Booker, here seen here, a big tough and no nonsense player that there were so many around about that time. Dick Cushlow, who really in his baggy shorts just looks the epitome of the turn of the war, football hero. Jackie Hudson, a real skillful player who scored some vital goals and was a absolutely vital member of that successful team. And then the oldest player ever to play for Chesterfield, Billy Kidd. He'll be hoping that Mark Crossley doesn't surpass that record at some stage during the first season at the B2 net. Billy Legs Lineker, who was called Legs because he broke his leg so many times, moved on to play football at a higher sphere. And then Dudley Milligan, the only Chesterfield player ever to score a full international goal whilst actually registered as a Chesterfield player. He managed that feat for the Republic of Ireland. Stan Milburn, brother of George and uncle of the great Bobby and Jack Charlton, England's 1966 World Cup winners. The snow came relatively early in the winter of the 46-47 season. 8 inches tumbled down on the recreation ground, and although it went away, it did come back later on in the season, and that 8 inches of snow really turned the Saltergate surface into a mud bath until the return in January and February of the worst weather the Football League season had ever known. Strength and determination became the watchword to be able to play in conditions like this, and you needed plenty of people to be able to clear the terraces and the way in. That's going up to the back of the cop before the roof was on. You can just see the top gable end of the main stand. And just look at that, putting the nets up. It looks as though a game's going to take place in those sort of competitions. Just cut a slot in where the lines are and get a brown ball out and we'll be all right. Clearing a path for spectators to make it towards the Saltergate wing stand. Again, the houses on St Margaret's Drive there in the background. When the snow went, the pitch became very bobbly. Just take a look at the terrace in there, just a handful of crushed barriers to lean onto as the Spirites played on into June, but with a final day match victory over Sheffield Wednesday 4-2 with a hat-trick of penalties from George Milburn. 4th place, the best ever in the 2nd Division, was achieved.
Of course, when Aston Villa came to play in a cup game here at Saltergate, they'll have run onto the pitch in just about this place. Not in this stand. This was built in 1936, Archibald Leach designed. But the previous stand had been built in 1921 and had housed many famous matches. And this is where Villa take to the field. So the Villa, one of the most famous names in English football, come to Saltergate in 1934. The game was a close affair, ended 2-2. Alan Hughes of Chesterfield scored virtually straight from the kick-off. The outside right, it put Chesterfield in the lead after just 11 seconds. The Spirites' second goal, scored by a centre-forward called Colin Cook, who at the end of that season was released. But he couldn't find another club, so the sympathetic directors of Chesterfield took him back, and the reward was that he scored 27 goals in just 37 games the following season. In the days when travelling was much more difficult than it is now, 1,500 fans went to Villa Park for the replay. Unfortunately, the Spirites lost 2-0, but that must have been perhaps the greatest away following in the pre-war time for the Spirites. Well, for the final league match here at Saltergate on May the 8th, 2010, 1,500 Chesterfield fans standing here on Cross Street. And it's a view that's not been available for Spirites fans for some time. 40 years ago, beginning of the 70s, up until then, you used to be able to move from one end to the other, depending which way Chesterfield were kicking. You could stand on the cop, move round through Compton Street and come and stand here, or go the other way round, depending on who won the toss, who kicked in which direction. And it was beginning of the 70s when Aston Villa came down into the 3rd Division, that a fence was put up on the middle of Compton Street that stopped them moving around the ground. So there's been Chesterfield fans who've been robbed of the opportunity to see goals like Dave Waller against Halifax, or Trevor Hebbard in that memorable cup tie with Liverpool after the 4-4 draw at Anfield, put the Spireites into the lead here with a great goal into this end. So, well, 40 years without being able to come and stand here. It's been a long, long wait. But those 1,500 against Bournemouth got a view that really, really is superb, looking onto the Kop and the main stand and Compton to our right.
Again, the header from Bramwell has won so many headers tonight. Ryan holds it, wide to Hewitt, sweeps it wide to Waller. Can he keep it in? Does superbly. Oh, magnificent play by Dave Waller. He tries to curl the goalkeeper. No! Oh, you dream about finishes like that to a match. You dream about goals like that. Poor Halifax Town. They murdered Chesterfield in the first half. Murdered them. 3-1 up. And Dave Waller scored an unbelievable goal. Unbelievable goal. And it's pulled some miracle out of the fire for Chesterfield. Absolutely unbelievable shot with his right foot.
Carr played into space, and there might be a chance for Chesterfield's Hebbard here, and Trevor Hebbard has got another one for Chesterfield. What a start! Liverpool's defence sprung again, and the team that got 4 at Anfield has got another one now against Liverpool. Trevor Hebbard, we were saying he once scored a winner for Southampton against Liverpool, and he's now got the 5th goal in the tie against them.
Yeah, he takes a very good touch away from Bruce, who puts him under pressure, and he finishes very well, Trevor. It resulted initially on a bad first ball away by Stevie Nicol. As you can see there, Hebbard hooks it in nicely.
It's his first goal of the season. And what a time to get it. In fact, he's not scored a goal for exactly 2 years.
He'll be highly delighted.
But I don't know about you, I always enjoy this kind of goal. A beauty, an overhead kick from Lee Turnbull, 1-1. Fabulous goal.
And of course, with a 96-97 cup run in full swing, you needed to be on Cross Street to see the most dramatic fight that Saltergate's ever seen really come up, with Chesterfield losing Darren Carr and Kevin Davis for this punch-up against Plymouth Argyle, meaning they were suspended for the cup quarter-final against Wrexham.
In the north of England, in the great centres of manufacture and industry, football plays an even greater part in the life of the people. In the Yorkshire town of Halifax, a great woolen centre, the local team play a Northern Cup tie against visiting Chesterfield. The ground, called the Shay, is set among the Pennine Hills. But though the weather is good, the result isn't. And to the disappointment of their supporters, the Halifax team is knocked out of the cup. In cup tie football, however, it's the surprises and the changes of fortune that make the competition so exciting. Liverpool, frequent cup finalists, are beaten by Little Chesterfield, who continue to confound the profits by knocking out team after team until they reach the semi-final. At Chesterfield itself, famous for its cricket spa, the whole town can think and talk nothing else but the chance of beating their rivals, Manchester United, and so reaching the Northern Cup final. Everyone who can squeezes into the ground to cheer on the home team. It's a real North Country cup tie, this. Hard knocks and every man all out for the whole game. This time, the giant killers meet their mark. Chesterfield are beaten, and Manchester United scrape into the final by the only goal scored.
But of course, in the 44-45 season, in what was called the War League Cup, you yourself and Chesterfield had a terrific run, and it started off, I think, with quite a few qualifying games, with a little bit of a little league table, wasn't it?
We had to beat Mansfield Town up here to qualify in the top 32, and I got a hat-trick on here.
Yes, I know, hat-trick against Mansfield at Saltergate. That's as good as it gets, really, in a 3-0 win.
We needed to beat them to get into the top 32, and
And what do you remember about that game?
Well, I remember scoring the third goal at this end here, and it hit the far post. The ball came across the line and hit this post and then went in.
And,
so it was my lucky day.
and a decent crowd that day to take you through him. But who were the players that you most remember that you were playing alongside with in that setup?
Well, I can remember the team I found: Middleton, Milburn and Kidd, Alan Pringle, Bill Whittaker, Len Hobson, Bill Lineker, Tommy Peters. He was a guest player. Jock Davey, centre forward, he was a guest player. And Tommy Jones, he was a Chesterfield player, and myself. And that was the team.
You mentioned about the hat-trick you scored against Mansfield Town. That qualified you to play against Halifax, but it was when it started getting to the quarter-final that the big games started coming, and of course the quarter-final was against Liverpool.
Yeah, well, it was a non-draw at Liverpool in the first leg.
Yeah, 35,000 people there.
Was it? At Liverpool.
At Liverpool, yeah.
Well, I remember when we played them up here in the second leg, and I was coming through to the players' entrance, and George Milburn was talking to Matt Busby. And I can remember him. I can visualise him now. He got the army uniform on. He was a sergeant or a sergeant major or something, and he got his. Because of course it was wartime, and he told George that he said, "If we win today, George, we're on a backhander."
Oh yeah.
So George came into the dressing room and told us this. So we talked him into going to see Harry Shentel,
who was the chairman at the time, of course.
And he said, I'm the chairman of the FA selection committee, George. He said, I can't afford to be getting into £100 payments like that. So we got nothing off our.
Well, there was no bonus forthcoming for Liverpool because Chesterfield won 1-0 and you scored. But do you know what they would have earned? Did Busby say what they would have earned?
No, just said we're on the backhander.
So what do you remember about the goal that you scored in the 1-0 win here at Saltergate? 24,594 was the crowd, by the way.
Well, it was at that end, far in, and it, I don't think Bill Lineker crossed it. I think it was a shot, and it came across on an angle, quite a wide angle, because the goalkeeper came out and it passed him, and I was running into that far post there, and I just threw myself at it and finished up in the back of the net with the ball.
Oh, not one of your greatest goals of all time.
No.
But one that counted for an awful lot. And what was the atmosphere of the old place like at that time?
I couldn't get, after the game, I couldn't get into the dressing room. The crowd was trying to lift me up on the shoulders and all that, you know. I'd never seen a crowd on the ground before. I mean, you never used to see the crowd coming onto the ground anyway.
Because Liverpool was still a massive team then, they are still. Still now, do you recall who was playing for
Billy
Liverpool?
Little, I think. Billy Little, Bob Paisley. Of course, Matt Busby was captain.
I mean, all the old-time Liverpool guys rave about Billy Little. Was he that good?
Yeah, he was a good player. Yeah, strong as well.
Very neat hair he always used to have as well, didn't he? Yeah. Centre parting.
I met him after that. I went to George Hardwick and Wilf Mannion's testimonial at Middlesbrough. Yeah. And of course Bill Whittaker played for them. We stayed in the Dragonora Hotel overnight, and the England team were also staying there. They were coming in bits and bobs, and I remember this chap saying to Bill, I'll book you a taxi, Bill, but they're running a bit late down to Ayson Park. And Bobby Robson overheard him, and he says, you don't come down with us in the bus.
Very good.
He was the manager of the... Anyway, we got in the bus, and Bobby Robson's walking down the hallway, the bus passage, and he's counting all the players to make sure they're all there. he gets to me and Billy said, I'm not playing you two tonight.
So in those times, in the wartime games, were there any sort of contracts that you were on at Chesterfield, or was it a come along and see who was available at any one time?
Well, we were we were contracted to whatever club we played for. I mean, I was we were pros, you see, but I got called up into the Air Force after that run we had with. But,
well, let's not finish the run, because of course you've just scored the winning goal against Liverpool, and a pretty big plum in the semi-final as well. Who was it? Just I'm sure you remember.
Manchester United.
That's the ones.
And we had a bomb on Old Trafford, you know, during the war, and they played on Main Road.
Yeah.
And I took a free kick there, and Jock Davey, I crossed it. It wasn't a shot, it was a cross. I crossed the ball, and the goalkeeper came out, and they both jumped up, and went over both heads into the net. So that was a bit lucky as well.
Oh well, yeah, I'd have made that a 25-yard absolute pile driver. So, but United managed to score and get a 1-1 draw in that game.
Yeah, but it must have been 2 yards offside when he scored it. But this is how it goes. It just depends who the referee is and what.
Yeah. So back to Saltergate for the second leg. It was a two-legged semi-final. Another big crowd here that day. Let me just check what it was. It was 24,100, but it didn't quite run our way that day, did it?
No, they beat us just by the odd goal.
And what are your recollections of the game and the atmosphere again now?
Well, it was very depressing. We were expecting to win every game we played. Well, we were doing more or less that at the time, but that was very disappointing.
So in that era, who were the players that you played against that you remember and stick out in your mind more than any others?
Well, I played against Matthews twice. It was with Stoke City. Played here and at Stoke. And well, I mean, they were internationals all over the place. They were playing one team one week, and because they kept coming out of the services, and wherever they were stationed, they were playing for that team locally.
Almost as famous here in Chesterfield as the renowned Crooked Spire is Ernie Moss, the experienced striker who was born here in the town. He's scored 12 of his 14 goals this season at Saltergate, where Chesterfield are unbeaten in the league. Arthur Cox has been able to field the same outfield players in the past 16 games, but today he is forced into one change. Alan Birch serves a one-match.
Well, we're in an area of Saltergate that probably has seen the fewest feet pass its way. We're in the television gantry. The original gantry was put up in 1979 for a televised game against Watford, just a temporary one. Then another temporary one was built for a televised game against Rotherham a year later.
Here's Crawford, and finding Walker, who's directed it into the corner. A quarter of an hour gone, and Phil Walker takes the bow. Chesterfield really struck anything like their best form in this opening quarter of an hour. But Alan Crawford provided a beautiful through ball that Walker took into his stride, and the shot just had enough sting. Here's Walker, who's given Chesterfield good service this afternoon, and a miscue that lets in Moss, and that's one nearer the record. Walker, who started it all, in for Kowalski, and the miscue there by Stancliffe into the back of the net from Moss. Came all the way through to Walker. Now Salmons, and lining it up on the left foot, and it's 3-0. Walker again involved to set Salmons on his way. Rotherham backed off. Salmons didn't hesitate, brushed the fingertips of Ogden into the back of the net.
And for many years the supporters club always used to video the games, and back in 1989 a game against Sheffield United, which was the last time a league crowd was in excess of 10,000 people were here to watch the local rivalry Chesterfield against Sheffield United. Of course, Sheffield United, the team that were here when the stand over on the far side was originally opened way back in 1936. Well, of course, when the seats were put in here, they were all built in under the roof, which meant this area in front of me here had to be filled in thousands of tons worth of concrete, poured in there to really bring it to a level that's level just a few inches below the pitch. But there's a wall at the far side that used to, if you stood at the front, would just about be chin level. Now the roof that we're sitting under and all the seats are under cover originally put up the middle section in the early 1920s, 1921, when Chesterfield were getting back into league football after their spell in the Midland League, having not been re-elected in 1909. And then in the 1950s, the roof was extended the full length of the pitch here at Saltergate, which gave everybody the opportunity to get in under the weather, unless of course it was a big crowd and you were late in, and then you'd be standing at the front open to all the elements. A really terrific place to watch football. I watched a lot of my football from the Compton Street side. Funnily enough, I was never a big lover of the Kop. I always used to like to stand around the halfway line and watch from the side, and I've probably watched as many games from this area as any. I think the seating and the terracing that you get in the back now have really added a new dimension to Saltergate. You get a lot of youngsters, a lot of families come in here, and you can still feel part of the match. There's nothing between you and the pitch, and you really feel a living part of the match when you're sitting here, particularly on the front row here at Compton Street. A great place to watch football.
Dean, but trying to play this ball out of trouble. Chesterfield and do a beautiful ball to Waller. Shot! Yes! A lovely goal, and Chesterfield take the lead in the 35th minute. Put back in the D. It's a good one. Backhead. Yes! Yes! Oh! A backhead by Bruno and an overhead kick by Waller deserved a better fate. It looked destined for the bottom. Head by Todd, picked up by Morris, out to his right to Ely. Cutting inside. Push the ball out to Lee Rogers. Cross coming in. Go, it's Morris! Yes! A lovely goal! So Morris puts Chesterfield into a deserved lead. A good ball from the right-hand side.
The famous hatch at Saltergate. Here since the 1930s, those of us of a certain age have had just about the ends of your fingers taken off when former General Manager and Secretary Arthur Sutherland used to slam it down shut when you'd finished the transaction to buy your ticket or whatever it was you wanted to do. Well, this hatch really came into its own in the 96-97 Cup run. Until then, really, you just turned up at the ground, paid your money, but the capacity restrictions that had happened after the disasters of the 80s had meant that it was limited, severely limited on the number of tickets you could sell. So all of a sudden, for the big cup games against Forest in the 5th round, Wrexham in the quarter-finals, then the semi-final itself at Old Trafford against Middlesbrough, and the semi-final replay, this hatch really formed a focal point of the town. There were people queuing up for miles. They were in there, and they were right out there.
Saltergate may be a world away from Wembley, but it marks the start of another FA Cup campaign for two clubs who have notoriously stumbled early in recent years. Hewitt's corner whipped in at pace. Oh, that's a great one from Williams! 1-0 with 5 minutes to go to half-time, and it's a great header from the former Shrewsbury man that puts Chesterfield ahead.
Ball laid forward for Scarborough up towards Andy Ritchie, but he was well covered there. And then Mark Williams knocks the ball forward, and here's Davis on the chase, and Kevin Davis, he could be in here, and Kevin Davis gives Chesterfield the lead. His second goal of the season. Well, there's good support for the side from North Derbyshire, who have reached this stage with some impressive results. Bury, who have been regarded as a bogey side, were beaten. Scarborough and Bristol City, all without the concession of a goal. And then that famous 3-2 win at Burnden Park against Bolton. And that's why Chesterfield are facing Forest here, including Des Little and Brian Roy. And here is Roy, and there's the shot, which is claimed by Mercer. Well claimed too. Brian Roy on the left foot. Bit short on goals, the Dutchman. But he did score a Coca-Cola Cup goal this season, and it required a full-length save. Mercer shielding his eyes against the sun, delivers it long, and Morris is up the tallest, as you would expect of someone of 6'4", and it was Davis who got the final effort in. Stinging it, and no real direction to beat Mark Crossley though. But at least Chesterfield getting a target, getting a shot on target, that will please them. There's a great physical presence. They call him Bruno, as you would expect. Andy Morris, who's about to have a testimonial season at Saltergate. Good servant he's been, and that ball in dangerous. Oh, that's a terrific stop from Howard. Crossley just getting his body in the way to deny the Chesterfield man. Otherwise the shock scoreline was on the cards. It's a good delivery in here from Davis. Let's see how close Howard was to beating Crossley. Well, it was just straight at him. I don't think Stuart Pearce would be overly concerned if the result was a draw and Forest managed to get Chesterfield back to the City ground. But Williams for Holland. Still they're finding it difficult to prise open this Chesterfield defence, which doesn't give much away at any time. The general record shows that their defensive work is probably better than their attacking play, but they've got a chance now. Through the middle, Howard, and he goes down, and the referee is going to give Chesterfield the penalty, and Mark Crossley could go off as well here. Referee Ellery reaches to the pocket, and Crossley is off. Well, this is a dramatic turn of events at Chesterfield. Mark Crossley cannot believe it, but that's the rule. He's taken Howard out. Howard got goal side of the defender. Crossley knew no other way to stop him. And Chesterfield have a penalty against 10 men.
Most memorable goal would be against, in the Forest game. I scored a penalty in the Forest game and we won 1-0, so I suppose that'd be my most memorable. I can remember being on penalties for maybe 2 games before that. I think I'd scored the previous 2. I think I scored one
against
at Luton and one at Wrexham.
That's right.
And then I proceeded to miss the next 3, and then in the semi-final no one knew I was on the penalties, and John was shouting for me not to take it and Daichi to take it, so it was probably a good decision for him to smash it down the middle in the end. So that was probably my most memorable goal, yeah.
Yeah, so just going back to the Forest penalty then, did you have which side you'd planted in? So it was facing the Forest fans as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was facing the Forest fans, and I had a few quite a few friends in that Forest end, because I'm from close to Nottingham, so quite a few of my mates were in there. I can remember getting a bit stick off Dean Saunders and Brian Roy asking me which way I was going to put it and all that kind of thing. But I was surprisingly quite calm. You know, it's probably the only time in my career I've been calm in front of goal. And yeah, I think I put the one at Wrexham the same way. I think Marriott got half a hand to that one. Fortunately, the I'm not sure what the goal it was. Who was the goalkeeper? I can't remember.
Mark Crosley.
Mark Crosley. Yeah, he went the wrong way anyway, so it didn't have to be that good a penalty.
Crossley, a shake of the head, is on his way to the dressing room. He won't bother stopping to see the rest of the action. And what a chance for Chesterfield of Division 2. And Alan Fettis is the substitute goalkeeper. What a moment for him to have to come on, though, to face a penalty, and it'll be Tom Curtis who takes it for Chesterfield. He's had successes from the spot before now, and the former Loughborough University student can give Chesterfield the lead here, and he scores! Chesterfield 1, Nottingham Forest 0, and you'll be able to hear the roar as far as Nottingham. But the acclaim is coming from those Chesterfield fans, and what a moment as well for Tom Curtis, who kept his cool, picked his spot to the right of Fettis, and Chesterfield are on for some cup glory. Maybe further opportunities here. This is Davis twisting and turning that Forest defence. Curtis again was involved. Corner for Chesterfield, and Forest are on the rack at the moment. It's always difficult for a substitute goalkeeper to come on at a time like this. Well, he's the hero. 3 goals this season, and the third of those 3 is the one that's going to fill many a paper headline tomorrow if Chesterfield hold on. Carr's in for this one, and off the line, and headed against the underside of the bar by Dean Saunders of all people. The loss of Mark Crossley has been counted, and there might be something this time for Howard. Past the keeper, surely now. Oh, he stumbled at the critical moment, and Jonathan Howard has blown a chance of further glory. Forest know they've got to get the ball in there sharply. So away again. Out by Curtis, up to Morris, and Nottingham Forest go out of the FA Cup, and what a day to savour for Chesterfield. And there was the hero, Curtis. His penalty did the trick. Delight for the youngsters, delight for the manager. There he is, John Duncan, and Kevin Randall, his assistant. It's a famous day for Chesterfield, a miserable one for Stuart Pearce. And who could have predicted that scoreline? It's Chesterfield 1, Nottingham Forest 0. At the start of the competition, when over 570 teams entered, few people would have nominated Chesterfield or Wrexham to play a part in the semi-finals. But we're here at Saltergate to see which of these 2 emerges. And it's a lovely welcome for the 2 teams. Beaumont, and he's driven on well here, and there might be something this time for Howard. Whips the ball across, Marriott makes the stop, it comes back to Howard, still in play, and right across goal from Jonathan Howard. But Marriott certainly was the saviour for Wrexham there. Very good goalkeeper, Marriott. And it was Beaumont's ball inside the defender to Howard that posed the problem for Wrexham. The stop had to be effected, and Howard then just tried to screw it back across goal, and it went up and over. Well, Wrexham's run started at Little Colwyn Bay. Indeed, Wrexham were very close to going out. And here is Beaumont now, and Beaumont might just get in here. He has done, and Chesterfield are in the lead. Oh, what an atmosphere here now at Saltergate. Chris Beaumont is the hero of the moment for those supporters, and the former Stockport County man, who was the only summer signing made by John Duncan, has scored his first FA Cup goal for the club. Indeed, it's only his 2nd goal of any sort for them. What a vital one. It may be decisive. The ball was hooked on there. He got the better of the defender, just got in between defender and goalkeeper. And to the delight of those fans, Chesterfield lead. And it's Chesterfield now who have the chance of further FA Cup glory in this astonishing season, and this is the man who's given them that chance. Beaumont, he may go for goal again, he does! Oh, nearly 2 in 2 minutes for him, and then another save made by Marriott. Wrexham under siege, and this man is driving Chesterfield toward an FA Cup semi-final place. John Duncan knows that Chesterfield are on the verge of probably the most famous day in their history. Well, this little town has never known much glory in terms of footballing success, but a red letter day for them now, and you can't blame those fans for coming on to surround their players. They want to hoist them high on their shoulders. A single goal by Chris Beaumont has carried Chesterfield of the second division unbelievably into the FA Cup semi-finals.
Well, Ernie, you came into the side as a young lad in 68, 69, which was a struggling side. Chesterfield had done really well the season before when you were, of course, in the intermediates. Then you were introduced in a side that only just missed re-election. So what happened between the end of 68, 69 and the start of 69, 70 to turn Chesterfield into a promotion force?
Well, I didn't start the first 2 games because I'd been left out the previous year, but because the Chesterfield they lost first game and into, I think it was a Bradford Cup game that they lost that as well. They got me off the bench to play, and I played the whole rest of the season. And Kevin, unluckily, Kevin got kicked out for a couple of three games, and then we both came back together. And that's when we really started well together and scored probably 40 goals between us.
Well, that summer leading up to the season, Jim McGuigan had done a lot of work with you, hadn't he?
Well, yeah, because I wasn't too good previously, you know. He kept me from April all the way through training and doing a lot of physical stuff and trying to stroke the ball well, and eventually that got going really, really well, and that's when Jim said, yeah, you can play.
But of course, in that summer he brought in a couple of key players as well, the likes of Archie Fennerty coming in, John Archer, a phenomenal captain, and of course Tom Fennerty, a wonderful footballer. Were they the final pieces in the jigsaw?
Brilliant. They were brilliant. He brought in other people. Charlie Bell came in as well, a big centre back, and of course Alan Stevenson. So everything that developed brilliantly. But all the players were slightly different in all the different areas, which made the team good.
Well, of course, you mentioned about Alan Stevenson. Alan Humphreys started off in goal, then picked up an injury, and it was a take the coach round and knock on his door to pick him up job, wasn't it?
That's what happened. When we were going to Scunthorpe, and unfortunately, because Mr. Humphreys he couldn't play, then we had to go. Instead of going we went through Staveley and picked him up, and we beat them at Scunthorpe, and he was superb, Alan. And we actually played against Mr. Keegan at Scunthorpe. Yeah. But we did beat him.
So at what time did you start feeling that you've got a team together that could start knocking on those top 4 positions?
I don't really understand everything like that, because I just wanted to just keep playing each game. When I scored quite early in the season against Newport, which was 4 goals, and then Kevin and myself, we started combining together. He'd score or I score, and it got really, really good, and I enjoyed it all the way through. And it then started to build up towards the end of the season, and that's when everybody got really into it, and that's when we got promotion.
Have you ever had an understanding with another player alongside up top, like you had with Kevin Randall, because it just seemed magical?
No, not really. On those particular, that particular first two or three years, that's when Kevin and me were both playing. Other people would come in, but Kevin was the top man for me. He was a really good player that would cross the ball for me to either miss goals or score goals. But you know, I would hold it up and give it to the brilliant individual midfield players, and Kevin would be into the channels to create a lot of stuff.
It was Ernie Moss. Initially, I had a very good understanding with Ivan Hollett, but Ivan went out of favour with Jim McGuigan, and Jim was a brave man. He introduced young Ernie, who was very raw at the time, and played probably 2/3 of the season, and didn't score a league goal. I think he scored in the cup. He might score a league goal towards the end of the season, but Jim McGuigan kept faith with him, and me and Ernie forged a tremendous partnership because we complemented each other. You know, he was a very good header of the ball, as you know, and I had the ability to beat a man and cross the ball both sides. And so I could supply the crosses, and Ernie could get the headers in, and we just had this chemistry where I didn't have to look for him, and I would just cross the ball into the right area, and I know Ernie would be on the end of it, and he was the same. He would get himself in a position where he knew the ball was coming.
Of course, one of the things that people who perhaps started watching football more recently forget is that there was only one substitute in those days, so he didn't need to have a huge squad to put a team out. But the starting 11 was pretty predictable in that year. It really didn't change a lot, did it?
No, it didn't. And I mean, the substitute that was on the bench hardly ever got on at times, unless someone got injured. Rather than, you know, if we were losing the game, we'll drag somebody off. That's, you know, Jim McGuigan, he wouldn't do that. But if someone got injured, then they'd change just on the one guy. But it did go quite well for us because we all stayed on the pitch.
How influential for you, as well as for Chesterfield, was Jim McGuigan?
Spot on. It was quality. Scottish guy. I mean, I know he's passed away, but for me, he didn't argue with me. He didn't really criticise me. He started to develop me, you know, for that first year, and then in a way he put his arm around me to sort of try to develop and get better and better and better. Please get better and better, he was saying. So I just worked hard, and then he said, spot on.
And a lot of your goals obviously came from your head. Is that just a natural instinct that you know when to time the run, to jump, or is that something that you learned?
No, definitely that's what I was learning. But because I was quite tall, and to be fair, it was quite late in the games when I was quite fit for 90 minutes. Maybe one or two of the centre-backs, 75, 80 minutes, and then that's why I managed to sort of get higher than them and score more goals, because I was younger and I was fitter. But then it developed as it went further on and on and on. I did get better with my feet. Well, my right foot, my left foot wasn't very good, but equally that was okay. But I wasn't really quick, but I was a big front man, and then other people played off me. Midfield players were quality, centre backs and defenders were excellent, keeper. So everything in the team was good.
And of course, to exploit your skill in the air, having somebody who could place free kicks and corner kicks like Tom Fennerty was just a bonus, wasn't it?
It was, particularly corners or free kicks, whereby John Archer would dink the ball in. And on that particular the season that we won, from the corners in particular, Tom Fennerty would be at the near post, and then other big guys such as me, Charlie Bell, Albert Phelan, probably even Kev Randall, we'd all be diving into certain areas, and when the ball came and flicked on, we would score.
As the season unfurled, Chesterfield and the likes of Wrexham, Swansea and Port Vale were clear to be the teams that were going to be the ones to beat, and there were some cracking games involving those teams, weren't there?
There were. You know, because when we got together, yeah, it was quality. I mean, but we just went in and we were looking at that particular team for next Saturday. We weren't looking, months ahead. We were looking at a particular team and training throughout the whole week. We were really looking at it and saying, right, this is where we're going to be. And Jim McGuigan would be saying, there's certain people, certain defenders, this, that, and the other, and it would slightly alter a little bit. But we worked so hard throughout the whole 11 players. In those days, that was great.
Clinching promotion away from home at Exeter, I think, was it Crewe that I can't remember the circumstances, away at Exeter. Anyway, what were the feelings when you came off the pitch and all the other results had gone the right way?
Well, it was good because when we were down at Exeter, I think Tom Fennerty scored the goal and we equalised. It was 1-1.
Yeah.
But when we came back off, everything was, it was great. It was brilliant, and everybody was cheering. And we'd come back from Exeter on the coach, and one or two people had have a drink and say brilliant. But then when we did go across to where did we go to when we lost? Crewe. It was Crewe. It was Crewe. Yeah. On the Friday evening, and Ivan Hollett, he actually scored a goal, but I did too. But we lost 2-1, and then the following Saturday we beat Peterborough up here when we got a delivery of the medals and the actual trophy.
Yeah, and I've heard a story. I think it was Albert Holmes told me a story some time ago, because the 60s and 70s had quite a few reunions, haven't they? And I've been at most, if not all of them. He said that Dan Newton gave everybody a penknife at the end as a thank you.
Yes, he did.
And I think the Sheffield tradition is you give them a penny. Anybody who gives you a penknife gives you a penny. And Albert always used to say that Dan Newton came out on top.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, he was a quality fullback. But the whole team for me was brilliant. But yeah, when they gave us that and shook a hand, it was a little penknife.
Did you get a bonus for winning promotion that season?
No.
No. Typical, really. Arthur Sutherland wanted to let you hear a bonus.
No, I mean, I'm not going to tell you how much wages we got, because we got very little. But that didn't worry me, because I just enjoyed it. I just loved playing the football. Equally now, it's quite expensive.
Yeah. So we're here in the home dressing room now. We're sitting in the bit that used to be yours. Did you have to bag your space? Did you have to wait until you'd been around before you could choose, or were you just told this is your bit?
Well, this is where I was, and equally it was a number 8 as well, because as it was going round, it was bigger than this, and there were everybody came in when we were training, so there were loads here. But in the actual, when we were kicking off on the Saturday, it was the goalkeeper, number 2, number 3, and this is where number 8 was. Yeah. So that was fine. And then there was a substitute just around the corner. So that was excellent.
So at that time, were you still doing the majority of the training at Pitt Street at Accrington?
Yes. Yeah. We did go across to Pitt Street. We equally did a lot of heavy running around the outside of the pitch. But that was early in the week. That was Monday or Tuesday, and then we developed it. But equally, we did go. We went running around Lenniker Woods and all sorts.
You used to win the cross countries, as everybody tells me.
Yeah.
But you didn't win the sprints.
Oh, I never won the sprints. No. I would never ever get close to 100 yards or 150. But then when I got to sort of 400 yards, I would just plod past everybody. Yeah. And equally, we went underneath the. Underneath there.
Under the main stand.
Under the main stand.
Yeah.
And we were doing a lot of work with the. What was it called? What was all that?
The gymnastic type of thing.
Rings.
It used to be rings. When I first started coming, there were rings.
Yeah, and we had to be up and down onto the benches just to get you fit.
Yeah.
And we were sweating.
Yeah.
But underneath there, that was good.
So now, in a match, players will come out at 2:05 and do a rigorous warm-up. You guys used to just sort of come out on the pitch and start playing. Did you do warm-ups in here?
did little bits of warm-ups and stretches, but when we were told what we were doing by the manager and the assistant, etc., and then we'd go out about 1:45 and warm up, but stay out there and then play. Whereas now it changes differently, doesn't it? You know, they go out, come back in, do this, do that. But we were just going out there. They were, and they were telling us what to do. Get out there. Went out in the line, and then we worked for 5 minutes or so. Then we'd kick off. Off we went.
An architect, Archibald Leach, built the brand new stand in 1936, opened against Sheffield United to a record crowd. And then just a year or so later, the great Arsenal side, 7 England internationals, the likes of Alex James, Cliff Bastin, came to Saltergate and played in the FA Cup. We're in the physio's room here. In those days, sponge, cold water, bucket, that was about the best you could ask. Well, Arsenal ran around Saltergate and ran around Chesterfield and came out easy winners. And Chesterfield finished with 9 men, no substitutes back in the 30s. They were a feature that didn't come into the 1960s, believe it or not. So 9 men against the mighty Arsenal, and no chance for the Spyrites. Arsenal, of course, in the early 1930s had won 3 consecutive First Division titles, only the second time ever to do that, Huddersfield Town being the first, and Herbert Chapman had been the manager in the first couple of seasons on both of those occasions. But Arsenal had kicked on after the death of Chapman and came with the likes of Ted Drake, who scored a hat-trick in the match. Now, Chesterfield were a pretty good side at that time. They'd been promoted in the 35-36 season. A brand new stand had been built, and for most of that campaign were sitting comfortably in mid-table positions. They brought in Walter McMillan, who cost a mighty £2,000 from Manchester United at the time, and he went on to win 4 caps for Ireland whilst a Chesterfield player. But going into the game with Arsenal, really the London side were always the favourites, and when Charlie Reid and Jack Seagrave were injured for Chesterfield, it was always going to be difficult. The Spyrites' goal was a penalty from Alan Slyman, one of Chesterfield's all-time greats, who was in the RAF in the war and gave great service and was just killed whilst in a raid over Germany just before the end of the war in 1945. Also featuring for the Spyrites, Horace Wass, and put up well over 400 league appearances for the Spyrites, and was notable for his skill at cricket as well, where he actually played for Scotland at cricket. Just to put how good Chesterfield were in perspective at that time, soon after the game, during that 36-37 season, Chesterfield put 4 past Doncaster Rovers in the very next game, and then they also put 4 past Nottingham Forest and Newcastle United, and they scored 7 against Bradford City. So it shows you just how good Arsenal must have been at the time.
Well, of course, we enjoyed the Anglo-Scottish Cup in the 80s, the FA Cup semi-final run in the 90s, but we'd never really enjoyed too much success in the League Cup until the 2000s, well into the career of the Premiership and the big-time Charlies of West Ham, Manchester City, and Charlton Athletic followed Wolves, who had beaten at the first hurdle on penalties, to come to Saltergate. They weren't too enamoured with what they saw in their accommodation here at Saltergate.
Clark, that's Little out wide to Darren Potter. Potter's ball in. Is he going to go all the way through? It is. Ricketts, and it's over the line, is it? No! Right across the face of the goal from Rowan Ricketts, and nobody to put it in the back of the net. The closest Wolves have come all night to a goal, and they're still denied. Is a goal going to go in for either side? Well, Chesterfield were caught there, and the ball straight across the face of the goal. It couldn't have been closer to the line, but nobody to stab it home. So Wolves will have the throw. They keep the pressure on. The clock ticking down now, the final seconds of the match. And the linesman flagging for offside again. A free kick will be given, would it? No, the extra time is finished. And we have a penalty competition here at Saltergate. Chesterfield 0, Wolverhampton Wanderers 0 after 90 minutes. Still 0-0 after extra time. And Chesterfield go to penalties. It's not something they're probably particularly happy with, because Chesterfield, we've often seen them lose in penalty competition. Let's hope tonight it's not one of those occasions. Carl Ikeme going down there, and it looks like Kevin Hurst for Chesterfield will be the first penalty taker. So it's in front of the Wolves fans where the penalties will be taken. And has that got anything to do with Chesterfield losing such a lot of penalty competitions? You never know. The Wolves fans will do the best to put him off. So it's Kevin Hurst then with the first penalty for Chesterfield. Thank you very much. Chesterfield 1, Wolves 0. Jamal Johnson, the number 13, goes up now for... In fact, it was Alan O'Hare that took that one. I think it might have been Alan O'Hare that took that penalty. It's now going to be Jamal Johnson, though, for Wolves against Barry Roach. And Johnson strikes home a good penalty as well. So it's one apiece. Chesterfield 1, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1, and it's now Phil Picken for the Spyrites. And Phil Picken makes it 2-1, a brave effort there from the Wolves goalkeeper. The Wolves fans started to cheer as he looked like he'd almost made the save, but the ball going into the net anyway. And I think this is Rowan Ricketts now for Wolves against Barry Roach. Chesterfield lead 2-1. And another well struck penalty to make it 2 each. So as he goes back, Alex Bailey is the next penalty taker for Chesterfield. Chesterfield 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 2. Alex Bailey then versus Carl Ikeme. The Wolves fans again trying to distract him behind the goal. Bailey has his shot saved. Alex Bailey's had his shot saved. And next up for Wolves is number 14, Darren Potter, on loan from Liverpool. So 2-2, and Alex Bailey is the first one to miss. Darren Potter. Oh, and he's hit the post and it's gone in. A slightly lucky Darren Potter there, but the ball's gone in the back of the net. It hit the inside of the post and went in. And Wolves lead by 3-2 now as number 9 Wayne Allison comes up to take Chesterfield's 4th penalty. Chesterfield, of course, now need Wolves to miss one. This is Wayne Allison, he needs to score. And he does score. Wayne Allison makes Chesterfield 3, Wolves 3, but Jamie Clapham, the number 11, is next up for Wolves. Clapham then against Roach, and it's a good penalty from Jamie Clapham. And it's 4-3 to Wolves. Chesterfield's final penalty taker is Derek Niven. And if Derek Niven misses this, then Wolves are through. If he scores it, then Wolves can seal it or not on their last penalty. So an important one for Derek Niven. And he scores straight down the middle. Derek Niven, it means that Chesterfield have 4 penalties and only one has been missed. That's been by Alex Bailey. And the skipper for Wolves now, number 6, Jody Craddock. Jody Craddock then versus Barry Roach. And Jody Craddock has put it over the bar. And Chesterfield have qualified for the second round for the first time in 23 years on a penalty competition. They've not won a penalty competition for 23 years, but they've done it tonight.
Just playing it in. Weaver came, and it's dropped in from Folan. And Chesterfield have their thoroughly merited equaliser. And Saltergate is jumping. He's done really well here to get into the box and to hang up a cross away by Rayner. Oh, what a strike! What a wonderful strike from Derek Niven! That is a fabulous goal of what is turning into a fabulous night for Chesterfield Football Club. You won't see a purer hit of the football anywhere, anytime.
Rio Coco's not really been in the game for me too much. Not at his most effective out on the right, that's for sure. Now Folan might go through here. Oh, saved it off the post and then in from Larkin, and they are back level. I said don't write them off. Alan O'Hare sizing up his options here. Oh, ricochet, surely in it is for Folan.
Australian centre-half Downs is a natural target. O'Hare in the mix as well. Hurst playing it in low. Got a flick and it's in! Larkin across to celebrate with Hurst. And Chesterfield have a lead inside the first 2 minutes. Spyrites begin the second half just as they began the first, with a very early corner. Ryderson close to Downs. It's in! Carbon copy, only this time Caleb Folan again! A goal against Manchester City, a goal against West Ham, and now a goal against Charlton Athletic.
In went Allott. Good header. Alisson! 3-3! They just will not be beaten. The Chief in the 120th minute. Hurst won his header. Alisson's header was deflected in. "20 seconds and then penalties." When Chesterfield beat Wolves in the first round of this year's League Cup, they did so on penalties, and Kevin Hurst took the first one. It is Hurst again now. Fine start. Advantage Chesterfield, just as it was 2 minutes into the 90 minutes. Darren Bent, already 1 goal on the night, already 8 goals for the season. Charlton's certainty. Adam Smith, the substitute. Oh, it's done well. Young man, very calm. Good-looking player. 2-1 Chesterfield. Not much of a run, just hit the target. Hasselbank has already hit the target twice for Charlton on the night. Save! What a good save too from Barry Roach. There was plenty behind Hasselbank's right boot. He was clattering this for the bottom corner, but Roach got across, and it is advantage Chesterfield. It's all on Scott Carson now. Derek Niven has played a major part in this cup run. Carson has denied it. It's a save each. Chesterfield lead 2-1. Charlton have a kick in hand. Niven knows he was too close to Carson. Andy Reid trying to take the pressure off himself here. Little Irish grin. The wide eyes of the goalkeeper. Reid has fired it straight down the middle. 2-2. That Irishman beat the Irishman between the sticks. Wayne Allison, the grand old man of Chesterfield. The man who dragged this tie into this penalty shootout. Scores. Firm on target, picking out the corner. Darren Ambrose. That's a good one. It is 3-3 after 4 each. To all intents and purposes now, it is sudden death. Mark Allott, the captain of Chesterfield, with the whole of Chesterfield on his side. The leader, wearer of the armband, denied. It's a very good save by Scott Carson. And it means that if Herman Hreidarsson scores with the next kick, Charlton go through. It's been a painful process. Roy McFarland has come so far with his willing young side. But if Herman Hreidarsson scores here, Charlton squeak through. And he does score, and Charlton do go through to the quarter-finals of the League Cup for the first time ever. What a tie, what a meaningful embrace, and what an effort, despite the celebrations of those Charlton fans. What an effort from Chesterfield, whose run was great fun while it lasted.
And just imagine if you just missed a penalty for Wolves, or conceded a Derek Niven goal of the season blockbuster, or seen Caleb Folan take the game away from you in the last minute or two of the game. You had to come and clean up in here. Over the years, legions of players have been in the Chesterfield away dressing rooms. I think now, instead of thinking legions, it's legionellas. Well, Ernie, we've talked about the 69-70 and the great team there, but of course on your return, the 79-80, then 80-81 Chesterfield team was another great lineup, built by Arthur Cox and taken on by Frank Barlow. Yes. And the 79-80 side just missed out on promotion, and then the addition of Danny Wilson took it to a new sphere, didn't it, really, that summer?
It did. It was superb. You know, when Arthur, he was quality, but Frank was also brilliant as well, Frank Barlow, and the team that we've got with Birchie and Phil Bonnyman, and it's absolute quality.
At the start of that season, a bit of a pre-season tournament in the Anglo-Scottish Cup and games against Sheffield United, yes, Grimsby Hall. Did you think what that might lead to?
Well, we did. We were playing like that, and when I scored at Hull, was it at Hull? Grimsby. When I scored at Grimsby, which was a long way out, and I just whacked it, and we actually managed to win. Luckily enough, and it was very, very late in the game. So then we got into the Anglo-Scottish Cup, so that we could be okay, and that was superb. But to play against Glasgow Rangers was brilliant.
We'll come on to Glasgow Rangers in a bit, because of course before that match, Arthur Cox got the job at Newcastle United and moved up there, and Frank came in from the number 2 position, ex-player of course, and his first 2 or 3 games were just like awesome. A 6-2 win away at Carlisle, and then what I think is the best football I've ever seen played by a Chesterfield side, the first half against Colchester United, 3-0 at half time. Just how good were those 2 performances?
It was excellent. Frank Barlow was superb. He's a smashing guy, because he came from Sheffield United to play with me, and he became a coach, and then he became a manager, and he's such a great guy. But you're quite right. When we went up with Carlisle, and we absolutely hammered them 6-2. Birchie got 3, I got 2, Phil Walker got 1. But to come when we played of an evening against Colchester here, the first 45 minutes, when we were, I think we were 3-0 up at half time, that particular 45 was superb, really brilliant for all the players, and we hammered Colchester 3-0.
I don't think it had mattered who had played that night, that if the other team's not got the ball, there's nothing much they can do about it.
No, there wasn't, but everybody, from the goalkeeper all the way up to the front people, developed brilliantly. And for the first 45, we battered them. Second half, they came out and they wanted just to defend, because they didn't want to lose 6-0 or whatever. So they defended a little bit better. But the first half, we played brilliantly.
By that time, of course, we knew the draw for the Anglo-Scottish knockout section, and of course, Glasgow Rangers had come out first leg away from home. They not qualified for Europe that season, but they played their absolute first team up at Ibrox.
Yes, they did.
And Chesterfield got a very creditable draw. What do you remember of the experience up at Ibrox?
Yeah, well, we went up and we stayed at, obviously, superb hotel, went to Ibrox, and there was about 25,000 people in Ibrox watching us, and they scored a goal, but then Phil Walker, he developed, he drilled the ball in from the corner, and it just kept going and flew into the far post. So nobody touched it, so he'd scored there, and we then worked our socks off, and we came back 1-1, which was great.
Funnily enough, I remember him scoring down from a corner at Swansea as well, and
oh yes, of course.
Didn't he? When they won promotion in what was a massive game for them.
He does that well because he whips the ball in, and it does swerve quite well.
So the Scottish press were quite surprised because they expected Rangers to trounce a team from the third division below. You know, they're sort of one of the greats of British football. And no doubt John Gregg, who was the manager, some of the quotes that were attributed to him at the time were bandied around the dressing room, about, certainly particularly about Colin Tart.
Oh yes, there were. But when we were coming back, you know, we came back on the bus. It's a long way, but to win, to draw 1-1 and then come back for the second leg was going to be really superb, and a lot of the Rangers supporters did travel down to Chesterfield.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
And it wasn't quite all quiet on the Western Front. I mean, all the pubs closed and not quite boarded up, but it was a bit like the siege of Mafeking, I think, when they came to town.
Yes.
But of course, that night must rank as one of the greatest nights in
yes,
a Chesterfield, but not in blue, of course. So they played in red that day.
And it was throwing it down with rain. There were a lot of people from Rangers that had come into the ground, so there was 16,000 in the stadium, and it was absolute quality. But Phil Bonnyman scored 2, and I scored 1, and we beat them by 3 goals to 0 to make it 4-1, and it was we absolutely battered them.
I mean, for Phil Bonnyman, who'd been a young player at Rangers, but not kept on to get into the first. How much did it mean to him?
He enjoyed it and he liked it, but he did score from a corner and he hit it again, and he was such a great guy. But because it was against Rangers, I think he really got into it, steamed up, and went and scored those 2 goals. And I scored, late on, make it 3-0. But that was absolutely superb to actually beat them, who were in the top league, and we thought that was going to be brilliant. But then later on, we went and we played in the semi-finals, didn't we? And was that against?
Yeah, pull the plum out against Bury.
Bury, and we did actually beat them, but they were more difficult than Rangers against us.
And of course, Bury, for those statos amongst us, is a ground that Chesterfield never ever used to win on. So it was a dreadful draw.
Yes.
But we went and won at their place, and it was the first time since 1946-47 season that any Chesterfield team had done that. But there was still the second leg of the semi-final to come.
Yes.
But did you think the job was done after winning the first?
Well, we thought we'd be okay, but I think when we came here, did we draw?
Draw. Sturkey scored an unusual or rare goal.
Yeah, because we'd done quite well across there. But when we came here, we thought we'd be okay to hammer them, and it was more difficult. Yes. But we did manage to just hold on, and we got through to the finals.
Of course, the final against Notts County, who were flying high on the way to what now's the Premiership. So another really tough game to come across. Very tight first leg, and of course one of those bittersweet moments for Chesterfield. Danny Wilson got injured in the first leg, missed a few league games, which probably cost us promotion that season. But a very tight first leg here at Saltergate.
It was a tight, and because they were in the old First Division, which was, top draw. We thought it was going to be a problem, that we weren't going to actually win it. But I managed to tap a ball in, and we won 1-0 here. And then the second leg was going to Notts County, and we thought, well, because we've only won 1-0, to be at Notts County in their top league, we might get hammered. But we worked our socks off. It went into extra time, didn't it?
Yeah,
they scored one. I can't remember who scored the goal, but it was 1-0. And into the what was it called? The extra time.
Into
the extra time.
That's the one.
Yeah, and then Mr. Crawford. Andy Crawford, he scored.
Or even Alan Crawford.
Sorry, not Andy. Alan Crawford, and he was quality on that.
Yeah. Well, his was from about the same distance as yours
it was only a tap
in the first leg, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was only a tap.
But a bit back heel, a bit more flamboyant.
Yeah, it was. But to do that in the extra time situation, and we then made it 2-1, and we went balmy because we'd got the cup. Just
behind us there, and one of the tankards, of course, presented by Mr. Football League of the Day himself, Bob Lord.
Yes, Bob Lord, he presented that, and because we'd gone there, and they were 2 divisions higher, weren't they? And we'd beaten them, and that was absolute quality.
And you were saying earlier on, and we'll tell everybody now, the club didn't even allow the coach up, did they?
No, not really.
But to go in your car?
Yeah, we travelled there of an evening, but that was okay. I think to be fair, we did go in the bus.
Yeah.
But when when we came back, we could come back with all our friends and stuff like that. But we did actually go in the bus.
And of course, there's quite a bit of coverage, particularly the Rangers game and the final as well. So it must have been great to have been in the national media spotlight.
Oh,
at the time.
Was. We for Rangers and for Notts County, because they were really high up in better divisions. We rolled our sleeves up and went and worked our socks off, and we managed to beat them both, and that was quality.
It's the most games Chesterfield ever played in one season. That season with the Anglo-Scottish Cup, and of course there were 3 matches in the FA Cup that all ended with replays.
Yes.
Peterborough, I think won in the end. So a lot of games. So perhaps with the greatest team that I've ever seen come together at Chesterfield, did those cup games probably cost promotion, do you think?
Well, maybe, because we'd played, 60 games, I don't know. 1 or 2 injuries, 1 or 2, and you get tired at times. But to actually win the Anglo-Scottish, we wanted probably to get the championship as well, but it didn't work.
But how good was that side?
I thought we, it was decent. It was decent. But I think to win the Anglo-Scottish and to keep the trophy, because it wasn't going to go anywhere else, Chesterfield have kept it forever.
Well,
so that was good.
Of course, the irony, the Scottish clubs pulled out because they weren't very happy with the quality of the opposition. Yeah, well, I think look at the list of names on it, and there's only one Scottish winner on it. The rest of them for England. So I think the English ought to be moaning about the quality of the Scottish.
Maybe so, but because we'd played so many games, and at times, as I've said, 1 or 2 injuries or then. Yeah, we probably not quite finished off everything.
But let's just end up with a recollection again of those two games that we touched on earlier on against Carlisle and Colchester United. Just how special did it feel at half time in that Colchester game? Did you know you'd been out and done something special?
Everybody had. It was absolute quality. Worked her socks off, and I wouldn't say Colchester were poor. It was just that everybody got together, rolled their sleeves up, worked their socks off, passed it, kept the ball, moved it around, and when there were chances, that's when we converted them. And to score 3-0 at half time, then that was superb. But there were lots of other games that we'd played in and were decent, but I must admit that first half was probably the best in that season.
And best you've ever played, best 45 you've ever played in?
Probably. I might have played a little bit better elsewhere, but the whole team was brilliant.
Big kick from Pollitt, the header was from Hicks. Parrish on the overlap, here is Rob Edwards! Edwards! Goal for Chesterfield! With just 4 minutes gone, Rob Edwards scores on his home debut, and he'll be thrilled with that one against the local rivals Mansfield Town. The ball lifted in, it was knocked back, and Rob Edwards was there to drive it past goalkeeper Bobby Mims. Away at the back by Chesterfield again. Beckett couldn't make contact with it, he does now. Roger Willis down the line. Fortune comes across straight away. Willis sends a good ball inside, a good run from Galloway. Beckett now if he can drive one. Blue shirts arriving in vast numbers all of a sudden. Ebden in the area. Beckett giving turn. Still Luke Beckett. Yes! Ryan Williams against his former club scores for the Spireites. Chesterfield 2, Mansfield Town 0, and we still have 7 minutes of the first half remaining, which Bobby Mims will take. Edwards, Willis, Beckett's chance now for Chesterfield. Beckett's away here, put it past the keeper. Yes! 3-0 to the Blues. Luke Beckett, the goal scorer for Chesterfield. The celebrations with the home side once again. Chesterfield 3, Mansfield Town 0. Away by Blatherwick. Galloway, Payne's got a man on him straight away, plays the ball forward. Beckett controlled it well, held it well, Luke Beckett. That's a great ball, fantastic ball from Luke Beckett. Parrish is away here, Ryan Williams arriving at the back post. That's where it's gone, and it's 4-0 to Chesterfield. Ryan Williams' second goal of the afternoon. Chesterfield 4, Mansfield Town 0, and a delighted Ryan Williams on the far side of the field. It's a blue afternoon at Saltergate.
Well, John, it was wonderful football in that season when Nicky Law was manager and steamrolling everybody. But of course, halfway through the season, it really started to tumble, and the Kop, where we're standing now, of course, was condemned and all the barriers taken down, and Chesterfield fans couldn't stand on there. Was that the first time that you felt that things were starting to go awry off the field?
Yeah, it was. A few people had said to me, and a few people that I trust to tell me, had said that things were not right. And as is often the case, the fans seem to be the last to find out, really, and that was the thing that that prompted me in the thoughts about supporters' trust and the fact that we were all keen to know what was happening, and there was nothing coming out.
Apart from, of course, Harry Harris, that was sensationalising it all. But
yeah.
As it came and Brown went and supporters started the ball rolling and took over the club towards the end of April. Of course, the last match of the season against Halifax Town was played out here to a very enthusiastic crowd. Promotion had been won at Brighton away on I think it was the Monday or Tuesday night, and then people came here, but still nobody on the Kop. Great performance by the Spireites to end the season, and then there was that really emotional rush after people had been on the pitch to come back onto the Kop and almost retake their rightful area. How did you feel at that time?
Yeah, it was bizarre, really, to think that we'd been thinking and talking to a few people about starting a trust, and then having a meeting, and I think 1,100 people turned up from memory at the Winding Wheel, to finding ourselves running the place, literally getting the club thrown at us when a lot of other people were walking away from it, to the fairy tale, really, when we took over and just oversaw promotion, really. It seemed bizarre. And like you say, people on the pitch here, in the director's box behind there. It was unbelievable. And then people just had to go to a spiritual home, really, which was the Kop. Yeah. Unbelievable scenes. People knew, and that made it clear to us as well that where the fans wanted to be and that something had to be done.
And of course something was done that summer with Phil Taylor leading the job. All the concreting and terracing as we see now in the last days of Saltergate's life were done, and from that it was almost the birth of something brand new.
Yeah, it was the birth of something brand new. I think I'm right in saying that the club had never had any grants from the Football Foundation at that point. I think the only club from memory in the league that hadn't. So clearly that was a sign that things had to change. And yeah, Phil did a great job. He got some money in that way, and we managed to get it done. And a lot of hard work. Fans came and did work as well as volunteers all through that summer. They're not to be forgotten. And it was at that point when you realise just how important a community is, buoyed up by its club, and what a club means to its community.
And of course there were still people who were supporting the previous regime that had let the club all but die. But I remember there was one particularly fateful piece of paper that made nearly everybody change their mind, and that was a letter from Mansfield Town accepting Chesterfield's request to share the ground at Field Mill. And the day that was discovered, I think, was the day that you realised how important owning the ground was.
Absolutely. Like you say, we found a letter, one of the first things we found when we came in. Mansfield Town delighted to accept Chesterfield as tenants, and once people saw that, the situation changed for everybody, even the doubters. So yes, and through the months, that was really almost the start of hanging on to Saltergate through that summer, and probably for a large part of the year. Various things and financial situations, but it was a roller coaster, white knuckle ride. But we managed to keep hold of Saltergate
and keep hold of league status as well, because of course there was at the league chairman's meeting in June that year, there was going to be a vote to chuck Chesterfield out of the league.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, what more can you say? That was on the agenda, and CFSS sent representatives down and managed to keep us in the league. So yeah, fraught times I thought I'd never see at Chesterfield, and it certainly makes you think for other supporters that you see even now have problems with their clubs. Luckily since then, with the partnership between the supporters that are currently on the board and the supporters on the terraces and in the stands, that we've managed to bring stability to the club, and that is the foundation stone that's been enabled us to move, really.
Well, I remember leaving the league chairman's do. I was driving on my holidays to France, and just had to stop in a lay-by and take it all in one day.
Yeah, I was pretty much the same, Phil. I remember at some time, and you'll probably know the date better than me, I was sat in Tenerife reading When Saturday Comes, an article about Supporters Trust. The club was in complete turmoil.
It was February half-term 2001.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just sat down there and read an article on Supporters Trust and thought, well, this has got to be the way forward. There's got to be something that we can do around this. Previously been on the board as, if you like my term, a traditional type director, I'd always felt uncomfortable that supporters hadn't had a say in it, so it just seemed a natural thing to do, really. And it was ironic that 12 months down the line, I was in the same hotel, sat in the same place when you rang me and said that we were out of administration and CFSS had got control after administration, which is bizarre, really.
Game of the season, with promotion secured. The club was now owned by the supporters. It's party time. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Saltergate for the final game of the Nationwide League Division 3 season. It's Chesterfield versus Halifax Town. Recent development sees the supporters in charge here at Saltergate now. The Darren Brown regime is finished, and it's Chesterfield supporters owned by the fans in charge of the club, and it's a very upbeat, positive atmosphere at the start of today's game. Chesterfield on a run without a win at the moment, having secured promotion nevertheless. Halifax Town secured their league place during the week. That takes the edge slightly off this game, but allows both sides to play with a lot more freedom. And eventually the kick-off will be taken. Number 32 is Neil Redfern. And referee Steve Tomlin gets the match underway at the start. And Halifax in the dark green shirts losing out there as Ryan Williams tries to get the ball forward for Chesterfield. The ball forward, looking for the run of Jones, but the ball played across to this near side of the field now. And it's played forward towards David Reeves, headed out by Chris Clark. Ball back to Ebden, the ball stays in play. Square ball to Richardson. Missed for the last couple of matches. A good through ball from Richardson. Edwards now puts the cross in. It goes towards the back post where Beckett was waiting for it. Challenged by the defender. And eventually it's Ryan Williams that collects it. The ball crossed in from Redford. The header from Beckett! And Chesterfield so close there to putting the spotlights in front. The first of all, the cross coming in from Ryan Williams. And Luke Beckett getting on the end of that one. Just wide of the goal of Lee Butler. Ebden, Beckett, still Beckett. Beckett with the shot. Straight down the throat of Lee Butler there, but Beckett doing well, created room for the shot. And the header there from Blatherwick, it's gone in! John Howard got on the end of it. It was Blatherwick's header, but John Howard put it over the line, and Chesterfield take the lead from only their second corner of the match. Clark will turn it back to Butler. And Beckett does the chasing. Ebden. Good ball. Steve Payne. Williams. Williams got the cross in. Reeves! Oh, and just wide from David Reeves. How did he miss that? David Reeves, he doesn't know himself. 15 goals, and that should have been number 16 from the Chesterfield number 9. The two scorers there, 33 goals between them so far this season, and that one should have been number 34 from David Reeves, just wide of Lee Butler's goal. And it's also worth remembering that both the scorers at the Shea in that 2-2 draw earlier in the season, Roger Willis and Rob Edwards are both now not on the field. Willis didn't even start the game, but Edwards has been took off early on. And Steve Kerrigan, meanwhile, a recent substitute for Halifax, is now going to be spoken to by the referee. Proctor is ushered away, and Kerrigan talked to by the referee. We've had no cards in the match so far. Generally been refereed well by Steve Tomlin, but Kerrigan came close to one there as the ball goes in from Richardson, and eventually David Reeves. It was a game of head tennis in there. Howard was in there as well, so too was Steve Payne. It came in first of all from the free kick from Lee Richardson. The ball going towards the back of the box. Payne was there. It looked like an opportunity had been missed, and then David Reeves bombed up to make it goal number 16 for him this season, and Chesterfield now take a 2-0 lead. Butler's kick, Blatherwick gets there first. Was fouled by Redfern, says the ref. Richardson, Ingledow, turned into trouble, helped out by Richardson. Ingledow again. Wide on this near side, John Howard taking on Murphy. Howard needing support behind, he finds it in Ebden. Good first time ball in for Reeves. Beckett! Just wide from Lou Beckett. Good move from Chesterfield. Howard and Ebden on this near side, the ball into Reeves, first time again to Beckett, and the first time shot from the 18-goal striker, just wide of the near post. Header from Mitchell. Howard. Still John Howard. Oh, that's a great ball through from Howard. Ingledow! No flag. Jamie Ingledow says thank you very much. Chesterfield have a 3-0 lead. And suddenly the pitch is being invaded, and those supporters have got to get off the field because the game is not done yet by any means. It might be 3-0 and as far as the result it's over, but those supporters have got to get off the pitch as quickly as they can. The game has not finished. 45 minutes just up now. And the referee blows, that's it. No stoppage time is given at all as the players evacuate the field pretty quickly along with the officials, and supporters pour onto the field in the final game of the 2000-2001 season. Chesterfield are promoted to Division 2 in third place after the 9-point penalty for financial irregularities, but the promotion, the automatic promotion, is the most important thing, and Chesterfield supporters are really happy about that, as you can see. Halifax Town maintained their Football League status. They did that during the week. It didn't matter what happened today. Halifax Town stay in the Football League, but they're at the other end of the table to Chesterfield at the moment. But it's Chesterfield supporters delighted this afternoon. Automatic promotion confirmed, and the final score, the goals coming in fact, mostly through the second half. First of all, the goal from Jonathan Howard, followed not long after that by David Reeves, who hooked it over the goalkeeper and into the net for 2-0. And then the third goal coming from Jamie Ingledow after that little through ball from John Howard, setting up Ingledow. Ingledow put it through into the back of the net for 3-0. After the first half, a few goal chances, the second half, Chesterfield started to dominate, and at the end of it all, it was a comfortable 3-0 victory. As there's a little bit of a surge now towards the director's box. Now we can, if we look across to the director's box, we can see a couple of the players coming out there. It looks like Ian Breckin, the spraying the champagne over on the far side. But nevertheless, automatic promotion was the goal, and in their wildest dreams, I can't believe that they thought they would get that, but they have. And a good job being done by everybody, the management team, and also all the players as well. Mike Pollitt, Ian Breckin, David Reeves, Lou Beckett, Lee Richardson, Steve Blatherwick, Marcus Ebden, Jamie Ingledow, Ryan Williams, Steve Payne, Rob Edwards, Joel Armstrong, John Howard, Chris Beaumont. They've all been in there, and also the injured people like David Doria, Sean Parrish, and everybody else that's contributed to the club. The players enjoying the moment from the director's box. It's about the only time they get in there, I think. And indeed the supporters doing the same from the pitch.
Well, Ernie, you'd been away from Chesterfield, came back with John Duncan in charge, and the 84-85 season, memorable for me. It was my first season as programme editor, but with yourself, teaming up with the likes of Bob Newton, Phil Walker, it turned out to be a memorable season, and of course your second promotion with the club.
Yeah, it was for Chesterfield, my second promotion, but I was playing on and off because I was getting older. Yeah. But Phil Walker and me, we were, you know, on and off, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
But it was a side full of characters. I mean, there's a dearth of characters in the game today, but people like Newt, yeah, Steve Kendall, Sean O'Neill, Brian Ferguson, larger than life, weren't they?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was different to the 70s, and when Newt was there, he was working his socks off most of the time. Sometimes he wasn't, but it was a good game. But because I was getting older, and John Duncan kept saying, "You're going on this particular day, and Wack is going to go on, you know, another day," and that's how it works.
In terms of John Duncan, very professional. Everybody knew the job when they went on the park, didn't they?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, John Duncan and Kev Randall, and they were working really well, and we did get promotion, so that was excellent.
There were a few blips along the way. I remember on New Year's Day going down to Swindon, and we were the ultra-professional side. I always nick a 1-0 when you needed it, and came away against a very average Swindon side, having lost 4-0.
Yes, yeah.
I know it wasn't at Saltergate, but I think there'd been quite a bit of goings on in Chesterfield before the event, hadn't there?
Well, it wasn't me.
Oh, of course.
But there were probably only 2 or 3 of our players, including me, that worked our socks off at Swindon, and the others, I'm afraid, had enjoyed themselves previously and got drunk.
I do believe it might have been a bit of Hogmanay. Brian Scrimgeour, who was injured at the time, may have been the host. He could be the man.
Christmas, New Year's time, they really enjoyed themselves, but because they got down there, and you're quite right, they were drinking a little bit too much, then Swindon hammered us.
And your partner that day was Bob Newton, but I don't think he'd been on the pop, had he?
Yes. He was playing no, he wasn't playing with me up front, he was just staggering with me up front.
But I mean, the whole season, that season, it was about being metronomically efficient, wasn't it, really?
Oh, yeah.
And then there were the 1 or 2 magic players, like Phil Brown was a youngster who was coming in.
Little Phil was quality, I mean, he still is. And I mean, all the front lads played very well. But once we left Swindon, I did have one or 2 words with Bob Newton and slapped his wrist, and and then he changed himself and got really going again.
Oh, one person who's escaped on the drinking thing, of course, is Chris Marples, because he came into the side that season a little bit like Alan Stevenson had done in 69-70, hadn't he? From nowhere and took the world by storm, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, Chris, he did come in, and he's still. He plays cricket and football. And he was still a good keeper. But I liked Alan Stevenson a bit better, to be honest.
And in terms of when it was getting to the business end, promotion all but mathematically won when I think it was Les Hunter scored at Stockport County,
yes.
and you must have all realised that was it. Even though I think a bit of goal difference needed to still come into it, but that must have been great after Les's goal.
Yeah, it was good, particularly because I was sat on the bench because Wacky was playing away from home and I was sat there, and I watched it, and Les did score a great goal, and it was incredible. But they had to really work themselves out to keep that 3 points.
Then mathematical certainty came in midweek without a game. Chesterfield, I think it was Chester City. Stuart Rimmer scored a couple of goals to beat Hereford, and Hereford not winning. I remember going over to Sealand Road that night. So were you and the guys keeping an eye on that result on that evening? I know it's not as easy then. With there was no CFAX and no.
I think all the time, all the players. We do sort of look at things, and we try to see whether it's going to be a win, a draw, whether we're going to lose or win, and we do that all the time. But now, particularly, I just watch the game on weekends.
Now, how frustrating was it? Here we are sitting at Saltergate, home of the football club since 1871, that in the promotions that you were involved with, and your partner Kevin Randall as well, they were never here. 69-70 away at Exeter the day it was clinched. 84-85 not playing. Then in 1990 in 94-95 down at Wembley. How frustrating is it that in our lifetimes we've never seen promotion here?
No, that was peculiar. But when we came back from Exeter and we'd already got promotion, we played the last game here against, was it Peterborough?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And we beat them 3-1. And then all the crowd was on the pitch with us, and we were with the trophy, and it was great. But we didn't actually, as you're quite right, at Exeter, it was away from home.
And clinching the championship in 84-85 again was similar. It was clinched away at Peterborough. Massive following on that that end, a 0-0 draw. And I remember all the players, there were still fences around the ground then, going and shaking hands with the supporters and everything through the fences. But then came back here for the final match, a little bit like the game in 69-70, played against Rochdale and a 7,500 crowd. Because the crowds that season have been quite disappointing, and it was great to have a full house that day.
Yeah, it was. I mean, particularly earlier than that, there were even more than 7,000. But I mean, that's changed a little bit. But you're quite right. When we were down at Peterborough and we drew 0-0,
we really worked our socks off, and that got us okay.
And of course, the season ended on dreadful note. Really, we'd all celebrated on that day, me included, in the boardroom, and somebody had said to me, "Well, there's been a bit of a fire at Bradford. Oh, was there a problem?" No, I don't think so. And then of course we all got home after the celebrations and saw the scale of it.
Well, as I was going out for the celebrations, and I saw it on the television, and then I just watched it a little bit, and it was really a massive problem. It was shocking, and my wife Jen and me, we were upset about it.
Well, I think we all were when we saw it. It was so in your face, and I know we were watching recordings, but as if it was happening there and there.
Oh,
and of course, it changed the face of Saltergate, where we had to bring all the fire exits and everything in, and took the enclosure away, which I always used to love standing in the enclosure.
I mean, even in those days as well, they put big fences all the way around, all over the country, and I don't think I like that either. Because at Sheffield Wednesday that was a major problem, wasn't it, when the fences wouldn't allow people onto the pitch. So they've changed that, but you're quite right. I mean, I just like the old days when it was a proper pitch.
Yeah. So of those two promotions that you had at Chesterfield, 69, 70, 84, 85, which is the one that gave you the most satisfaction?
The first one, because I was just young, and Kev Randall, Pewey, all of them, John Archer, Fenity, even Alan Stevenson. I just enjoyed it.
And the second one, of course, Kevin Randall, still there, himself and yourself, synonymous with the club through the 60s, 70s and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, we even got promotion at Mansfield when Kevin was with me at Mansfield. So
I didn't want to mention that.
I know, exactly, but Kevin and me, we played together because we were completely different, but decent. I was just an ordinary plank up front, and he was a quality player to cross the ball.
Well, the one thing that I liked about football in those days was 1 to 11 game. Your number was always number 8, and you've got your number 8 shirt here from that 84-85 season. I can remember when you came back for your second debut and came on as a sub at Exeter, I think, number 12. And I don't think I'd ever seen you in anything other than number 8.
No, that was dead right, because I was sat on the bench when I'd come back, and it was number 12. But I much preferred to say, please, can I have a number 8 on my back, which I did, and that's what I like, because Kevin was number 9 and I was number 8.
Yeah, and has it become your favourite number 8 or?
Number 8, all over. Every other club as well, but. My original shirt, the old one, I like that even a bit better, because it's just a basic one.
Yeah,
it was good.
And of course, by the time 84, we got Co-Lite on the front of the shirts. Local company, one of the longest sponsorships has ever been, actually. On
yes, the Co-Lite one. The Co-Lite's there, but I don't think it's gone now, hasn't it, Co-Lite?
Yeah,
it's gone. We've got Co-Lite on. I didn't have anything on my first shirt, but. We used to have things on all the shirts, whether it was away from home or whatever.
Have you always been a big shirt saver of your own, or is it just the special ones that you save?
The only ones I've got, which I really like, is obviously the 3 Chesterfield shirts that I've got. The original one I really loved. I have got the Mansfield one when we got promotion, but I didn't have any of the others.
And you've also kept the one from the Anglo-Scottish shirts in 1981.
Yes,
as well,
I mean the Anglo-Scottish. That was a really good, because we actually won it, and we've kept the trophy here and it's still here, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And so just to finish up on 84-85 that season, just trying to think who the sponsors were. Was it a medal that you got? Did you get a medal at the end of that season? It was a proper medal, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Sometimes these days they give weird and wonderful things around. Proper medal.
Well, initially we had a nice medal, and Mansfield had got a medal. So I've had 3 medals, 3 gold medals. They weren't massive; they were just smallish ones, but they were really nice.
Yeah, and then a tanker for the Anglo-Scottish Cup.
Exactly. Yeah, tanker. And even when I scored all the goals, Arthur Cox gave me a big plate, a silver plate, to say that I'd actually scored them more than anybody else.
And of course, you had an original painting done. John Taylor painted one. Is that still up on the wall?
It is still on the wall. When I scored at Sheffield United, and he painted that after the year, he brought it for me, and I've still got that. It was absolutely quality.
Well, I was there when he passed it on, and it was an emotional moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there were photographs, but he must have seen the photograph and then painted it. And the painting, for me, is great.
Looking around the old ground, what's your number one memory from here?
When I scored 4 goals against Newport.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. But I scored a hat trick against Reading later on, and a hat trick. Where was that? That was away from home. Walsall. But
I can tell you, you're the only Chesterfield player ever to score a hat trick in a losing game.
Yes, yeah. Because we were lost 4-3 at Walsall. Yeah, you're quite
First
right.
match I ever reported on the newspapers. That was.
Yeah, but the 4 goals here, that was good. But some of the overhead kicks as well, and some of the things that Kevin crossed for me, I just enjoyed doing it.
And it'd be sad to see it go, won't it?
Yes, it will. I mean, I thought the actual ground itself is superb. I still like to see the playing surface and everything. But when it's gone, it's gone. There'll be a new one.
We'll move on.
We'll move on.
Good squad. We always had a good squad. Yeah. Even though 1 or 2 you can see, but if you grab them fast enough and quick enough on the neck, they'll be all right. Yeah.
I have not one regret about being at Saltergate. The only regret I had that I've had is when I was offered a job at Brighton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and I look back in retrospect and I think, if you hadn't done that, you'd have still been at Saltergate.
Mm-hmm.
But after about 5 or 10 minutes, the team were passing unbelievably. And John Duncan and Randall looked at each other. They both started laughing and saying, who's that team? We hadn't taught them to play like that. And they both, rolling about on the floor with fits of giggles like, and I'm sat there, 19-year-old thinking, what's going on here,
You come in the change room, everyone's full of busy and all that. We had a treatment table in the middle and it was full of China cups. So after first day back, we've gone in, what's the China cup for? John had said, no one's worked out that if that's your cup now. So when you go like on these runs and you grab a drink and all that, well, no one had worked out that if we all had a cup, that was our cup for the whole season.
I was sat in the front with Daichi and I think Kev Randall was driving it and Darren Carr had put the fag lighter on. And next minute he took it out and stuck it on Chris Perkins' knee for about 10 seconds. And he really did, and you could smell the skin burning. And he just turned around to me and went, did that hurt? And Perkins was in the corner like nearly dying, had a great big 10-pence hole in his knee, and you could smell all the way back down to 617 with smouldering, smelling flesh. So I suppose that's a character, isn't it, Darren? But
Dracula, I didn't like crosses. But that's the thing was, especially at Saltergate, you're so close to the crowd. I used to go and football when for a goal kick or whatever, you could go and he didn't, have a fence, he'd just chuck the ball back at you. And even our fans, if you weren't having that good a day, they'd call you from whatever.
And very often we used to arrive quite late in Chesterfield, anyway, somewhere. And he wanted a lift, because he lived round Bradley. He wanted a lift. The only person who was going that way was Gordon Banks. And Gordon Banks had a mucky old van. Gordon used to borrow a van from whatever and turn up in everything at Chesterfield. Anyhow, he sat he wanted the lift, and he took it and Gordon sat him in the back. It was a big van, There were about 3 or 4 Barry Hutchinson, I think Charlie Ross, and he was over there sitting coats or whatnot in the back of this old van. habits were rather. I mean, you won't get that nowadays.
No, he's this future World Cup winner, and he's got the manager sat in the back seat as well.
Back seat, no back seat.
But they're not just in back at van.
He was just in back at van.